From Australia all the way to America, when it comes to Formula One, Daniel Ricciardo has his heart set on both. And it seems like the motorsport is gaining popularity faster than ever before. In fact, he revealed the reason Americans suddenly love F1 now. We gotta hand it to the hit Netflix docuseries Drive to Survive.
Easier the more you win. Becomes part of your DNA.
Norris slides off!
That's competition.
No, it was so not right.
Yep, the same series that's got all the danger and drama of international high-speed racing. And speaking with Stephen Colbert on The Late Show, the Honey Badger finally talked about why Americans are suddenly so interested in F1, specifically over the past couple of years. Of course, the heartthrob had to sneak in a classic comment saying, "I think ultimately it's probably my good looks."
Say something serious, but I think ultimately it's probably my good looks.
I mean, that's pretty serious.
Yeah.
That's pretty serious, too.
Yes, Daniel, we're not denying that either. But on a serious note, he mentioned that there's parts of the world where Formula One dominated from the very beginning, like Europe, for example.
Which is pretty wild, and it's I think like there's parts of the world where it's always been big. You know, like Europe, Formula One's always existed. You know, for many years, and
Formula One's been there for many decades, and it was only a matter of time before Americans jumped on the racing wagon. But of course, Drive to Survive put the metal to the metal. Sure, the races, the money, the rivalries, the speed, all that is enough to give you exciting goosebumps.
2022 represents a new dawn for Formula One. The biggest overhaul the regulations have ever had.
The drivers will love it because they are fighters, like in the Colosseum. How you feeling about being?
But fans couldn't help but notice the drivers. I mean, have you ever seen Lewis Hamilton's pre-race bits? There's a lot more magic behind the scenes that the Netflix docuseries gave us a sneak peek of. And here's the thing, new fans, they don't know a lot about the sport yet. In fact, they don't think driving is some sort of athletic feat.
On the inside, this time is just hanging back a little bit. And is the patience going to pay off here? Because Verstappen has got DRS down the main straight. Charles Leclerc can't cover him off. Verstappen
But coming from someone behind the wheel, Ricciardo talked about the physical training you need to do to top 200 miles an hour. Meanwhile, it's one of the very few sports that you can even relate to. A lot of people just can't get why you need to be fit when all you gotta do is sit back and drive. But they've got it all wrong, because this is definitely a real sport. It all boils down to one thing, the G-forces. The F1 drivers gotta train like athletes just to endure them during races. Think about it. The average race is about 60 laps, or 90 minutes of driving, and you've got about 12 to 15 corners in every single lap. So if you do the math, you'll figure out that they definitely need the strength to hold on, and they've got to specifically train their neck muscles just to withstand all that pressure. But if you're not prepared, it's nothing more than pain and misery. But ever wondered which one of the circuits is Ricciardo's favorite? Well, as far as fans go, the track in Austin, Texas would definitely top the list.
It's cool. I mean, I love it out here. I love Texas. The atmosphere, the people, and it's cool. Every day we've had a crazy crowd, so it's been awesome. The people love you.
On the other hand, he called Monaco the crown jewel for drivers, because when it comes to Formula One, it's the only circuit he can think of.
and then thinks twice.
Yeah, and you can see Daniel Ricciardo just check the mirrors a final time.
Here he
Dazzling up the
goes.
inside into the entry of the swimming pool. Better traction, better release off the corner.
Mostly because it's got everything, the yachts, the celebrities, and of course the race itself. As for the US Grand Prix in Austin, it calls for a celebration. It holds a record for the largest F1 attendance. On top of that, it marked its first decade in 2022. And from 2023 onwards, the United States is gonna host at least 3 Formula One races every single year. Clearly, the sport's getting pretty popular with American fans. Not only that, but a new Grand Prix in Miami debuted this year and attracted a bunch of your favorite celebrities like David Beckham and Michelle Obama. In fact, we're expecting to see a race in Las Vegas this year too. With that said, these cities have the kind of global appeal that the Formula One community hopes will cement its mark in the American sporting calendar. After all, they've been struggling to crack this market for the longest time. Thanks to the success of the Netflix docuseries, along with the strong attendance in Austin, it was clear that there are enough American fans to justify another race. And if you rewind a bit, Formula One races have only been held in 5 other places in America: Watkins Glen, New York, Phoenix, Detroit, Indianapolis, and Las Vegas. But that was just one race in every single one of these cities. And let me he add that there wasn't any races in the US from 2008 to 2011 either. Formula One finally returned in 2012 when the new purpose-built track in Austin welcomed its first Grand Prix, and it didn't take long for it to become one of the yearly highlights for F1 drivers and teams as they explored the challenging track. Even Sebastian Vettel, the four-time world champion, talked about the growing interest across the US over the past couple of years thanks to Austin. As for Ricciardo, he thinks America does sports better than anyone. In fact, he was filled with joy when Formula One signed a contract extension with Austin recently, making sure that the F1 drivers got the American circuit at least until 2026. But while Formula One's gaining popularity in America, fans are stuck on one question: can F1 and NASCAR coexist in the United States? Back in 2014, at a fan meet and greet with NASCAR star Dale, Texas Motor Speedway president Eddie Gossage talked about this. He said, "I absolutely think it's foolish. It's a shot fired by Formula One at NASCAR. It's just not smart. There's 52 weeks in the year, but that's the only weekend Formula One could make it work." Yeah, a lot of fans didn't agree with him either. They just thought he's creating a problem out of nothing, as he tried to bring up NASCAR's sagging attendance figures. But that was a pretty long time ago anyway. As of now, fans still think Formula One is slowly but surely turning the tide and beating out NASCAR in its own backyard. If I'm gonna talk about numbers, I could go on and on. I mean, the attendance figures for the biggest US races, the US Grand Prix for F1 versus Daytona 500 for NASCAR, are pretty obvious. Sure, there are seating restrictions and whatnot in the case of the Daytona 500, but it wasn't easy for F1 to bring up the hype among American fans either. The newer generations in the US aren't all that interested in watching cars turn left all day long. On the other hand, F1 definitely tried hard to connect with the younger generation of drivers as they tried building another fan base here. Adding to that, Logan Sargent stepped in with his opinion as well. He thinks F1 is gonna overtake NASCAR as America's favorite motorsport soon enough. I mean, the interest in F1 is almost as big as NASCAR and IndyCar anyway. Meanwhile, the popularity of IndyCar has only plummeted down right after the series split into rival car and IRL factions back in the 90s. And sure, NASCAR has definitely been an American favorite, but maybe not anymore. Obviously, a lot of diehard IndyCar and NASCAR fans aren't going to be too welcoming to the growing F1 fan base. And Sargent even talked about the growing transition, especially with the addition of the third race. Now, Sargent is going to appear in front of his home crowd in Miami, Austin, and Las Vegas in 2023. If anything, he considers this as a special opportunity and a privilege at the same time. Having said that, it's pretty clear that the Netflix docuseries is how fans picked up the hype for Formula One. And get excited because new episodes are on their way. The 5th season is coming to Netflix on February 24th. But here's my question for you. What do you think is the reason behind Formula One's rising popularity among American fans?